The reason for the title is what I'm going to try to do is cover three things within the talk, and then hopefully we can engage in some Q&A. So the new Sip on Wellness is all about, number one, I want to make sure that you get some insights from me today in terms of what I believe across our industry the role of cannabis beverages is, and that will be founded in cannabis beverages and the role that cannabis beverages have in empowering consumers to pick up a cannabis product like a wellness product and engage in it in a way that enables them to self-regulate and modulate their mood for a desired human effect. So that'll be one area that we cover. Number two, I really want to ground you in our strategy. So I work at Canopy Growth. I'll introduce kind of my full self in a minute here, but I want to make sure that you get perspective from me on what is going on in the cannabis beverage category, and then what's going on with Canopy Growth in terms of our cannabis beverage strategy. So that'll be second. So it's more like insights, perspective. And then before we do Q&A, I would love to really paint a picture in terms of what is coming next. So what's coming next in terms of innovation in the beverage cannabis category, and what's coming next from Canopy Growth. Sound good? All right. Okay, well, there she is. So I'm Tara Rozalowsky, and I'm the Vice President of Beverages and Edibles at Canopy Growth. And the way I like to think about my remit is I like to think about beverages and edibles of if you can eat it, if you can drink it, human or beloved pet. That's my remit, that's my jam. And before coming into Canopy, I was kind of a traditional CPG lifer. So pre-Canopy, I've been at Canopy for a year, the best and most fulsome year of my career. Prior to Canopy, I was at ConAgra for about just under a decade. Prior to that, another 12 years at SC Johnson. I can keep going back. I thank my mother and dermatologist for great skin, but then you do Unilever and Procter, and if you want to span the resume, all the usual suspects are there. But I say that to say this: after a 20 plus career in traditional CPG, the move into cannabis for me was very purposeful. If I looked across my CPG career, I candidly felt for a long time that my resume was light. In traditional CPG, you learn how to grow brands. You learn about reapplicable playbooks and the like. But it's a never have I ever statement. Never have I ever, like at Canopy, had the honor of growing brands and building an enterprise and a category at the same time. And so that for me was a very purpose-driven way into the cannabis space. And also getting involved in cannabis is what I believe being a part of the single largest demand shift in consumer behavior that I will experience in my career. I mean, I wasn't meaningfully employed through the kind of the tech boom and bubble, if you will, in the 90s, nor was I, chronologically around after the prohibition of alcohol. So this is my way. This is my way in to participate in the largest consumer shift that I believe that I will see in my adult life. And as a marketer, wanting to be part of that is central to what I do. And cannabis is purposeful for many other reasons. I kind of lead from the heart and soul. My household, my family, we've been active in the cannabis space, participating in cannabis for many years. I said before, this has been the most fun year of my career. People will say, well, that's the product. I'll stop people and say, well, yeah, we have great products for all of that. But if you think, Canopy was the first time that I participated in cannabis, A, you would be wrong. And B, cannabis for me comes from another place of the heart. My son has epilepsy. So my son was diagnosed with epilepsy when he was 6. And the Epidiolex solution is something that is mainstay in our household, has been for 5 years. And it's the only thing that keeps the most precious human being I know from 5 to 8 seizures per day. So I really come from a place of like guts and heart in terms of, and I'll share the Canopy vision for growth, because the vision is around unleashing the power of cannabis to improve lives. And I have the good fortune, wouldn't change a day of it, to really see how that resonates in people's lives. So that's a little bit about me. And we'll go on to the next. We'll go on to the next one. This quote is fantastic. So this is a quote from Faith Popcorn. Faith is a friend of the cannabis industry, friend of mine, friend of Canopy. And what Faith talks about, Faith Popcorn, if you're unfamiliar with her work, she's a renowned futurist. You're going to want to be on her Instagram if you're not already. And Faith talks a lot about mood management. And she's done a lot of work with myself and my colleagues because of statements like this that says, shouldn't we be able to regulate our mood and snap us out of one way into another? Don't we get to choose that? And her sentiment is absolutely. So no doubt you've seen her work. And I've been in a lot of debates around statements and quotes like this, where potentially an indictment on cannabis is okay. If cannabis is for mood management, it's to go numb out and not be part of something. It's the inverse. It's the complete inverse. And so when I get into kind of dialogue like that, and maybe if you read the statement to me says that cannabis is really an enabler of wellness. And what cannabis enables in a mood management context is an opportunity for people to have empowerment to select the type of mood that they want to be in. And when we think about the impact and human benefit of that, it's massive, right? Because in an environment that is otherwise so much out of our control and constantly changing, the opportunity to have that element of control back to modulate how you feel and a desired human effect that you want to have is incredibly impactful. This is a little bit about Canopy Growth, my enterprise. I love doing this page a little bit more fulsome, because the best thing I can get from talks like these is literally a stack of resumes, because we would be delighted to continue to add to the Canopy family. And so this is us, right? So we're twice traded, as you see, on TSX and on NASDAQ. And the vision statement that I mentioned before, unleashing the power of cannabis to improve lives, really speaks to our participation from rec and medical use. And although the context of today's talk is beverages, we span all segments in cannabis, of course. We are CPG led and driven, so maybe that's where the background comes in handy. It's not about big corporate weed at all. Like that would be a different situation that I don't think is productive for the mission and what we're doing to normalize cannabis. But what we are taking is repeatable models from CPG, and we're bringing them into the cannabis space in an intuitive way so that we can bring new consumers in to cannabis and really speak about all the occasions for which cannabis is a really logical choice. We've got a team of 3,000 folks. I think all 3,000 are, no, I'm kidding. My team that's Chicago-based and Toronto-based is here today. We chose a conference to all be together, so that's my team. And we operate in over 5 continents. So we've learned through COVID, as of many enterprise, that our team does their most effective work wherever they are. And so there's been a tremendous opportunity to have core markets. We've got core markets in Chicago. We've got core markets in New York. I mean, I'm headed to Toronto this afternoon to be with another big part of my team. And so we do our work globally as a global enterprise, and it's all about developing products and solutions that really advance consumers' needs in the cannabis space. So that's a little bit about us. If the last page is who we are, I would say this page is what we believe in. So at Canopy, we talk a lot about total mood management. So again, in a world that's otherwise influenced by, changes that may or may not be within our control, the opportunity to manage and regulate one's mood is incredibly empowering. And so the philosophy of mood management, we believe at Canopy, is what sets us apart from the competitive set. And what we bring to that equation, so if you think about cannabis, and we think about cannabis as a wellness solution and a way to regulate one's mood, what we do from, again, that CPG perspective is we bring a lot of kind of crisp analytics to bear. And what I mean by that, when you see our product portfolio that I'll show in a minute, we don't create products that have cannabis in them kind of for the heck of it or for the sake of it. No, said differently, we're designing solutions that get at desired human effect for sleep, solutions for de-stress, solutions for relaxation. If you get into those solution areas, those large need and demand spaces, what we can do through that lens is really curate products that hit at a desired human effect. So if you take our beverage solutions, for example, we kind of flip the equation. So if you have a beverage, a Canopy cannabis beverage, it's not going to be a weed beverage with a little hint of iced tea. If we tell you it's iced tea, it's iced tea, and you'll have the human effect that you can enjoy from a cannabis product. World-class research, so we've got a research arm that's in the US and also globally, and then again, we're really designing solutions against consumer needs and trying to deliver on those need states. The main need states, of course, where cannabis has right to win is in areas of pain management, sleep, daily wellness, de-stress, and many more. Okay. So this slide will just kind of crystallize for you, I hope, what the mood management philosophy is that we have at Canopy. And what I like to think about it is, I think I remember learning in like gym class when I was 8 years old that we have this, 24-hour clock. And it took me until I was well into my 40s for someone to tell me that it's really a 24-hour mood management clock. And then it hit me because I realized if you think about a 24-hour clock as a 24-hour mood clock, that definitely defines my life, because I am not the same person when I wake up, out of bed in the morning and when I go to bed at night. And so the opportunity of having a 24-hour mood management clock that we acknowledge, and now we finally get to manage that mood ourselves. It's for me personally, it's like, yes, please, and just that empowerment of different solutions that are cannabis solutions throughout your day and how you can really change up that mood is very compelling. So let me get you a little bit around the mood management clock with some examples. So let's think about mood management, for example, in the morning. So I was doing the train for about 5 years. I live in the Chicago area, so I took the train for about 5 years, and now with COVID, maybe only once or twice a week, depending on office hours. And in the morning, I would do like maybe a CBD oil or like a soft gel, something to tolerate the train. I'm not a morning person, and maybe get me out of my morning fog and into something that would enable me a little bit more focus throughout the day. So if you think about cannabis solutions as part of this 24-hour clock, you could think about maybe a wake-up solution and something that you might desire as a human effect around focus in the morning. Similarly, CBD solutions are also very common for like kind of that mid-afternoon pick-me-up. This for me is when there's about 82 unopened emails and there's another like 48 that I opened but really haven't engaged in. So again, like some added focus to really get to task at hand or get that work-life balance back. If your email box is not like mine, can be a very compelling solution. So as we're getting through the day on the 24-hour mood management clock, other solutions, both THC and CBD, come into play maybe after working hours for folks who are going to the gym. Or for me, you don't make it to the gym until I have a little gym that we set up in the basement through COVID, and I get to the gym at around like 8 or 10 o'clock at night. And so like after an hour and a half, I find that without maybe a cannabis solution, if you will, I find that I can't wind down, after the gym, and then, transition effectively into nighttime sleep routine. And so that's what's intended with performance recovery. And maybe you see some of these vignettes in your lifestyle as well. On the THC side of things, THC is a common, cannabinoid used for unwinding after work. This has been an unlock for my health and wellness, maybe for yourself as well. I switched a few years ago from alcohol-based solutions to unwind to cannabis-based solutions to unwind. So I switched, high sugar and kind of dryness of alcohol to low to no sugar solutions with a cannabis solution, no dry mouth, no hangover the next day, no liver effect. And then also kind of the weight for me personally dropped off as well. So I've had a very positive lifestyle effect and change from cannabis from an unwind context. And then another mood management cycle that's very common is also to celebrate and to connect. So I'll get into the beverage solutions that we have in the portfolio next, but beverages in particular around this mood management clock have a huge role to play, because the little kind of stories that I told you about my day, maybe yours are similar, but it starts to get easy to understand how not just cannabis, but beverage cannabis solutions really take on a really big role in creating the types of occasions where it's really commonplace to enjoy a cannabis solution versus, say, alcohol, versus even coffee or tea, or even energy drinks. Okay? I miss Tune Out. That's definitely one of my faves. If you're like me, that always seems to be gapped between real life and restorative sleep. THC solutions, and also minor and other cannabinoids that people are using, like CBN, for example, very, very efficacious for Tune Out. And I see folks taking notes. Please take notes. And then if you have any questions on mood management, I'd love to kind of take you through it. This is our cannabis range for the beverage portfolio at Canopy. Let me take you kind of left to right. So on the most left-hand side of your screen, you'll see Quatreau. So Quatreau we have in both Canada and the US. Quatreau is a CBD purist brand in the US. In Canada, we actually have the same 4-flavor range. 2 of the SKUs are balanced THC and CBD today. The story and things you want to know about Quatreau is Quatreau was first launched in Canada just over a year ago now. And Quatreau in Canada is now the top CBD beverage brand in the country. We've got 3 of our 4 flavors that are in the top 10 of all CBD SKUs in the country. And so before bringing Quatreau to the US, we knew we had a global winner, so a really great opportunity to search and reapply. And Quatreau launched in the US just this past March. And we really leveraged an interesting consumer moment. So this past March, you might be familiar, was a once-in-a-lifetime, for me, astrological event around the age of Aquarius. And so our team leveraged the opportunity to work with a key influencer, Susan Miller. So if you're not familiar with Susan Miller and her work, she is astrologist to millions, astrologist to the stars, if you will. If you haven't already, get onto her Instagram as well. And Susan partnered with us on Quatreau because, again, when we think about the context or the new normal we're defining for ourselves, Quatreau is all about taking a beat, taking those moments for yourself, these moments of pause, because a CBD solution is designed to give you that relaxed state. And Susan Miller, being this renowned astrologist, so many people already go to Susan Miller for great advice around their life. And so partnering with her and her team to launch Quatreau around the age of Aquarius really brought a cannabis solution, a CBD purist solution into the mainstream. So that was a great partnership that we did. And Quatreau in the US, you'll now find, you'll find Quatreau now in over 2,300 points of distribution across 13 different states, including Illinois. Run, don't walk. And 4 flavors. So the 4 flavors, there's 2. There's the 2 on the screen. One is a passion fruit and guava, a blueberry acai, ginger and lime, and then also a cucumber and mint. And so they really span. I've always been asked to pick a favorite. My answer is I tried. So in any other context, I'm kind of a fruit first, like beverage preference. But then for me, the underdog that really wins it was the ginger and lime skew, because it really bends like a traditional cocktail. So that's a little bit about Quatreau. So again, Quatreau is in the US and Canada. Down the center of the page are solutions that are just in Canada today, that we do have interest with broader federal permissibility around THC in the US. We do have interest in bringing these solutions to the US. At present, these are in the Canadian market. So Tweed Fizz and Tweed Iced Tea are both 5 mg THC solutions. One is a seltzer, so Fizz is a seltzer, a carbonated solution, and then iced tea is a non-carbonated solution. And what's really interesting about these goes back to what I was saying before. It's the flavor strategy. So a lot of beverage incumbents, or maybe OGs in the space, a lot of the beverage solutions would be bitter, or maybe would be a weed drink with a hint of the flavor they tell me is on the label. So we've really flipped the script on that. It is complex, it is challenging to create a beverage solution that has the same flavor profile as a mainstream iced tea. I can assure you we've done it, my team has done it time and again. And how they do it is, it really again comes back to being consumer centric. And so within a flavor strategy, if we're going to tell you it's iced tea, it better be iced tea. And what you're looking for in a cannabis solution is the human effect that comes with cannabis, not necessarily a flavor undertone. And so the flavor strategy is very intuitive. And we also find with names like iced tea, I think it stands to reason that people are a lot more intrigued by the familiar and things that they know. Because if you take a look at just the can just being such a familiar format, a beverage being such a familiar format, and then designing flavor solutions in these massive flavor families like fruit and then ginger and lime, as I mentioned, people will really engage on mainstream scale. I think the only one I didn't cover on the page is furthest to the right on your screen, and that's deep space. So in the Canadian marketplace, per eaches, if you will, the highest MIG solution in the market today is a 10 MIG solution, and that's deep space. And so this is for maybe someone who's engaged with cannabis beverages in the past just because of the high potency within one can. It is intended as single serve, all of these. So depending on market, are sold all with obviously a child resistant top, but once opened are intended to be single serve, single use. Okay, so I think I touched on some sizing earlier, but I don't think I really landed what the global beverage opportunity is in terms of overall size and business opportunity. So what we have on this page is the global size anticipated for cannabis beverages by 2025 of 2.8 billion. And so the slide says global opportunity, but what I will say is the bottom blue box, the 1.5 billion plus, that's the US CBD beverage market, CBD only. And so adding THC to that, there's obviously anticipated higher projections when you add in all cannabinoids into the count. And then I had a page in here, this one on US. And so just within the US, if the last page was global and we're just kind of going whole to part, what I will say is beverages in particular are the fastest growing segment within CBD. And I think it stands to reason, again, their intuitive format, the flavor profile. And so what's going to grow the CBD beverage space over the next 5 years will be beverages. Today, Canopy Beverages are already distributed in the 2,300 plus store locations, as I mentioned. If you need any of those addresses, my team will get them all to you. And we're on pace. And so one thing you always want to hear by anyone giving a prediction in the cannabis space is, we talked about 1.5 billion on the past page, but we'll already be a third of the way there by the end of this year, which is very compelling, very, very compelling. Okay, I want to get into some questions that you have. I'll kind of round out here with a little bit of the path forward. I love this page. I think about, really future forward, where I want to be in my career, where I want to be as a consumer of cannabis over the next 5 years, is I want to see cannabis solutions in as broad distribution as any other, seltzer or any other drink type solution that you saw on the previous page. The next thing that's already happening in the city of Chicago, if you've been out to a restaurant recently, is you see, a beverage alcohol menu. You might see a classic cocktails, or even a menu for non-alcoholic drinks. But you'll also see, right near alcoholic beverages, you also see a cannabis menu for drinks. So I was at Soho House just the other day for like a brainstorm, and there was a really full menu of cannabis solutions for drinks as well, and that's going to be very, very common, very, very commonplace. It could be complete drink solutions, or it could be ingredients that you can do in terms of a mixer. And so that I also think is the path forward. From a Canopy perspective, we're going to continue doing more. So I talked about the consumer insights that we're doing. We're going to continue to do that. And then last on this page, since I went counterclockwise on you, is I can't leave any presentation with not being completely explicit about my passion area and what needs to happen in terms of the end of prohibition for cannabis and broadening regulation at the federal level. So rumor has it we're standing on a very potentially big week in cannabis, but aren't they all, is always the expression. And so it is my hope for, with federal permissibility of THC in the US, that we have a lot of these solutions, not just for my household and my son, but something that normalizes the behavior that we do in our home around wellness. So I'll leave it there and open it for questions. And put this thing away. Yeah?
What are the challenges you face with, aside from federal legality, what challenges do you face on scaling national, a major brand product like Quatreau, for example? What are, is it co-packers? What are the main challenges on going national scalability?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I will double back. You said, don't include Fed permissibility. Obviously, that's still a big one. Accessing customers that can help us scale when you might have legality from a CBD beverage perspective nationally. There's still very state-by-state specific regulations that a lot of national customers still hesitate to list a broad range of CBD products. And so Fed permissibility is still omnipresent. The next big challenge in terms of potentially being something to navigate, I wouldn't say it's behind us, but the next big challenge in terms of scaling our business is accessing consumers. So less so in the state of Illinois. If you live locally, you're familiar with TV ads and digital ads that can access consumers in a cannabis context. If you're watching not old WGN, but new WGN, what is it? News Nation, World Nation, so they're starting to do. But accessing consumers through marketing is still very different depending by state. And so it's called on marketers like myself and across our industry to be very creative with how we access consumers for our solutions so that we can educate on the benefits of cannabis at scale. So that's also big. And then also, so route to market. So we've got a fantastic partnership at Canopy with Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. And so the same route to market for beverage alcohol is now becoming the same route to market for cannabis solutions. So that is starting. So I would say route to market has also been a challenge, but has now been a very recent unlock. So I would say Fed permissibility, advertising and engaging our consumers on scale, and then now more expansive than ever, route to market.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you so much.
Great presentation, Tara. Thank you for sharing
Thank you.
about your experience. And fellow Canadian, I appreciate all the products that you're displaying. Is your package, are you happy with the package for the product? Can seems to be a bit crowded
Yeah.
in today's, there's a lot of aluminum cans out there, and you hear a lot about aluminum can shortages and that. Would you ever consider going into a PET bottle? Now that you're,
I see my team. I see my team leaning over. The question was PET bottle.
PET bottle. Come up with your own signature. Now is your opportunity to really show Canopy Growth. This is that product. And look at this shape, and people can recognize that bottle versus all the millions of cans out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The way we designed these solutions was to really lean on the heuristic in the consumer's mind. So if we were designing a seltzer, it's like, what's a seltzer in today? What is that? What is that biggest share of mind, if you will? And it was can at present. An aluminum can at present. And so we went down that path because really, from the marketer's heart and soul, is if we're going to normalize cannabis, I want to make sure that all the attributes of the product are very familiar. And so when I was thinking, seltzer, when we were thinking iced tea, it's thinking about maybe in a bev alc context or in a wellness beverage context, how are those beverages sold today? Let's butt up against that. But that's not to say that that's not just, one concentric circle of many, places that we could go, because the iconography that you can have around distinctive packaging is not lost on me. So it definitely could be something that we're looking at. And obviously we've got a ventures partnership that we've been very public about with Constellation Brands and with a brand called Karma. And they have a solution in a very distinct bottle that is not an aluminum can. And so that's why I have to say that, because I'm already doing it. The cans are on the screen, and we're already doing things that kind of box out in a more unique way.
That's excellent to know. I work for a company that actually manufactures packaging equipment that can shape bottles and that. So I would love, after maybe to speak to your team, to yourself, maybe help you build those things.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Given your presentation, how do you feel about, or do you have any plans to do any mood-based product branding, like say Candescent, where it's about the mood impact of the product?
Yeah, exactly. So we are headed there. We're making sure that we've got need state. So around sleep and de-stress, I think that's what you're getting at. Yep. More, telegraphically on the label. We're looking at solutions not just in beverages that we can do that. So I've got also the extracts portfolio. We think there's a lot of opportunity to educate the mainstream with very telegraphic language on front. Not for sleep, or not that hit you over the head, but arguably what we're trying to do with beverages is butt up against again those consumer heuristics of flavor and form, but across beverages, across oils and soft gels, across our gummy portfolio, we're looking at more telegraphic flavor and usage language right on the label. And thank you for asking. That's something that we're eager and we feel is imminent across not just our portfolio, but for the industry.
Is Canopy expanding their footprint into the United States, or are you going to be building a plant soon in the States?
So we're expanding our footprint in the U.S., but at arm's reach through Acreage. So we have very public partnerships in the U.S. with Acreage and also TerraSend, and so that will be our way into the U.S. pre-Fed permissibility.
Sorry, one last question. Any talks about BioSteel bringing it into the CBD, THC?
Oh, okay. So BioSteel is a non-infused component of our portfolio, remains kind of a large non-infused segment. So no imminent plans in the RTD beverage space in CBD. Awesome. You guys were fantastic.
Whatever other questions you may have for Sarah, you can go ahead and ask her off to the side.
Okay. I'm going to do my thing and shimmy off. Okay.